Hi, folks. Welcome to the IRA Radio videocast stroke podcast. We're going to discuss First Minister's questions today because unlike the mother of all parliaments, we actually still have questioning of the government in Scotland. Unfortunately, England seem incompetent when it comes to using Zoom. We're then going to move on to the complaints from business about lack of support. And finally, I've already forgotten. What was the final thing we were going to discuss, guys?
Coming out of lockdown.
Coming out of lockdown. So, well, Stewart, you watched FMQs, as did I. What did you think?
It was short and sweet, which makes a change. It was only half an hour. It wasn't particularly fiery. It was almost entirely on care homes and testing. I don't think PPE even got a mention. Did you notice?
Jackson Carlaw would not want to bring up PPE.
Oh, of course not. That's true. Anyway, it didn't get a mention. The First Minister came out with some fairly detailed figures, which, to be honest, they're going to take a wee... I mean, I'm not going to refer to them at the moment because they were quite complicated. Let's be honest, she grasps an awful lot of data and has it all there in the front of her frontal lobe. I was quite impressed. I thought Willie Rennie was an arse. He seems to think he's a medical expert, and he didn't. But what he can't do is even listen to the answers that the First Minister gave to the other leaders, and he hasn't grasped.
Well, the first question was, I want to know the numbers of people who are dying in care homes. And she gave a figure in her first answer, which was a complete figure of deaths, and then the percentage of those that they were attributing to care homes. He then asked the same question again, and she pointed out to him she'd already answered it. He then asked about people being tested before they go into care homes. I presume he means people being released from hospital. She pointed out to him that there was no point testing anybody unless they showed symptoms, because they could be infected, but until they showed symptoms, the test wasn't able to pick up the fact that they were infected.
And another point, and also if they were coming out of hospital into a care home, they'll be tested before they leave the hospital.
Well, if they had coronavirus in the hospital and they were coming out to a care home, they would be tested to ensure they were clear.
Yeah.
Willie didn't seem to grasp this, because his next question was, why aren't we testing everybody before they go into a care home? I mean, does he not understand that the only time this test is any use is when you're showing symptoms, so that you can actually identify that the symptoms you're showing are coronavirus?
Look,
can he tell you you're going to get it, and it can he tell you haven't got it?
I got the impression that Willie Rennie's been hiding on a Hebridean island all week, and doesn't he know what's been going on?
Well, I mean, he had the cheek then to say, I understand that. Well, if you understand that, why did you ask the bloody question? I mean, talk about scaremongering.
Aye, that's what Willie seems to be good for this at the moment. It's stirring.
Well, I mean, the question immediately puts doubt into people's minds.
Now, if we look at, it's not going to take long to go through this. Another couple of sentences and we'll be finished with this review. Richard Leonard asked questions from trade union perspective. He asked the same questions as he asked last week, and which is, yes, there isn't all the PPE, there isn't all the staff, everything's not perfect, especially in social care. And we all know that. And as you say, Jackson Carlaw stayed away from the question of PPE, which we've covered. We don't need to cover that again. So that just leaves...
I think we need to say, John Runtoul, who does he work for? The Mail?
I think it's the Mail, aye.
Journalist who had slagged off the Scottish Government and Nicola Sturgeon in particular yesterday, accusing her of making the PPE issue with the English manufacturers trying to score political points, apologized today, saying that now that he understood what the situation was, so he made his tweet, his original tweet, slagging off the Scottish government without understanding the situation, which I think tells you all you need to know about his ability as a journalist.
Okay, but let's be fair. He made his original tweet because he saw the interview with Jason Leach, and I've been having a go at least Jason Leach for weeks now. So
wrongly, in my opinion.
Well, he was kind of out of order. He was out of the loop, shall we say, the other morning when he said, "Oh no, that's rubbish. There's no problem with the."
He didn't say that, Stuart. What he said was, "We've looked into it and we think that's rubbish. Okay. We are looking into it still." He never said that's rubbish. It's been misrepresented by people on that.
All right. Well, I take that back. But that was the evidence that John Rentoul used.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, so did the Chancellor. But the Chancellor used that in his evening briefing at 5 o'clock, when what Jason Leach had said at 8 o'clock in the morning had been completely and utterly disproved, and there actually was an issue and it needed addressing. But unfortunately, Rishi Sunak, like the rest of that Tory government, are far more consider far more that showing others up is much more important than being accurate with what you're saying.
This links in with one of the other subjects we were going to talk about, which is the support for private business, because the complaints are coming from about the care sector. They're not coming from COSLA. They're coming from the private sector, who, as in the banking crisis, are not being held responsible for their inadequate supplies in their own private care homes.
Can I mention somebody's name? Robert Kilgour.
Aye, well, that's the guy that kicked it all off, who has now disappeared into the woodwork.
Oh no, he was on some main news last night. Oh God, no, possibly Sky or something. Oh no, he was being treated as though he was an expert rather than being challenged on him making all this money and salting it away in an offshore bank account.
Do we know this for a fact, Stuart?
I watched it.
No, does he salt it away in an offshore bank account, or allegedly?
Allegedly.
Right, okay. But the point I'm making here is, as the banks were bailed out in 2008, socialism was okay for the banks, but not for the population. It appears that this is now the norm, that private companies, instead of being held responsible for their own paying guests, are expecting the Scottish government, the English government, the Welsh government, and the Irish government to bail them out.
Yeah.
Why is nobody asking why they didn't have a pandemic strategy in place for their care homes?
Well, particularly when you've said in the past, Norrie, that your personal experience with your parents has meant that they do expect shutdown. They do expect to shut down 3, maybe 4 times a year, and they should be prepared for it. And clearly, they haven't been. They've been poorly prepared whilst, allegedly, they may be salting away money, but certainly we know they're profiteering. They make an awful lot of money, these care homes, and they pay their staff rotten wages while they're doing it.
I don't know how much of what I paid for my parents was profit, but it seems to me that there is an argument to be made that private care homes have a responsibility to have in place action plans. Now, they no doubt do for norovirus, the flu, etc. I mean, I know the home my mother was in was shut down, I think, 3 times in 1 year because of flu scares and norovirus, diarrhea outbreaks, and so on. So why aren't they screaming and shouting about the fact they're not being supplied by English companies who were supplying them in normal times? And why can't we turn around and say to them, why were you not prepared for this pandemic? Why haven't you risk assessed your staff's PPE? Why is it the taxpayer through the Scottish government? Why are we responsible for your safety.
Yeah, I think after the fact, Norrie, I think this will be used as a stick to beat the care industry mercilessly with. We will expect far higher standards from them. And there's every chance that there'll be a bit more government control and regulation in that sector, because it seems to me that however much regulation there's been, clearly isn't enough. You're right. I mean, they'll have had action plans in place for things like C. diff, for example, that was a major issue 2 or 3 years ago and just isn't now because they've found a way to deal with that particular beastie.
So I would like to hear somebody question them, Mr. Kilgour, as to why they didn't have stocks.
Okay, well, it's got to the point where people are starting to ask the question, what's the new normal going to be like? What's it going to be like when this current crisis is over? And of course, what's being put around in the last few days is the argument that the care sector should be nationalised. Well, I would think that local authorities would be better, in a better position to run care homes. What do you think, Norrie? You've got personal experience.
My parents didn't go into a local authority care home. They went into a private home. We were fortunate enough that they had a house that could be sold to pay for it. Now, it was a much more homely atmosphere. It didn't feel like one step away from a hospital ward. That's the best way I can put this.
I think the danger of nationalising it would be that you'd think local authorities are going to be better at providing us that particular service, but the reality seems to be somewhat different. Local authorities, I didn't want to get on my high horse here too much, but can we just note that the highest paid public servant in Scotland was head of health and social care at North Lanarkshire Council. She was paid £650,000 last year. She's getting paid 12 grand a week to be a civil servant. What the hell is that about? How on earth can any civil servant in this country be worth 12 grand a week? Football players aren't worth it, so being a civil servant certainly isn't it?
Because football supporters are much more essential to our well-being, Guy.
I'm not sure.
No, mate, I didn't understand how anybody in local government can be worth a salary package like that. I mean, North Lanarkshire, mate, it's not exactly the best performing public authority in Scotland, is it?
I'm going to throw in the word Monklands. If you're old enough, you'll know what that means in Scotland and Scandal. That's where Monklands is. I think if it's 600,000, Jimmy, but
that's what, mate. That was published only yesterday. It was £651,000.
I'd like to hear the justification for that one. I have to say, I mean, one of the things that people forget about with care homes is when it comes time to look for a place for your parents, you're looking for something that is emotionally acceptable as well as giving good care, good food. You know, you don't want them to feel like they're in hospital all the time.
No, you want them to feel like it's a home. It's somewhere that they can be comfortable.
So what the private sector gives you is choice.
Well, I'm going to throw into something that I have noticed driving around, and I think a lot of other people will notice this as well. It's surprising the number of upmarket care homes seem to be built right alongside major roads and major junctions. You would have thought that's the last place you want to build them, but think of the amount of pollution from traffic.
Well, that's another thing you have to take into account. How near can you get your parents to you so you can visit often? I mean, there's some beautiful homes out in the country, but they're, an hour's drive away. And these are all things that come into the mix. If you're in an urban setting.
Yeah, but my question is actually bringing in the possibility that the phrase second-class citizens.
Well, within the area, for me, there is a very large house on the links. There's one that's just been knocked down, this end of the links. There's one up off Easter Road in Albert Street.
The listeners don't know where you are, Norrie.
Lock-in. Well, I'm going through it, and most of them are easily accessible by road for obvious reasons. You know, you want to get an ambulance in there, basically. And they tend to be big houses or purpose-built.
I think the government will use all of what's happened as, because let's be honest, the care sector exists in its present form because of what happened in the 80s under Thatcher. She closed a lot of the long stay hospitals where people would have gone in the past. And basically it was to get access to the funds that people had accrued over their lifetime. So we have got those funds paying for the care rather than the government paying for care.
The first time I ever heard about care home was a family of brothers that I knew who were property speculators.
Mm-hmm.
And they got into it because of the money.
Aye. Oh, it's a profitable business, mate.
And these were the guys who also did the multi-occupancy paid for by the council bedsit stuff. Now, I'm far from, I mean, I've had a look at a lot of homes, a lot of spread of different types of homes in while I was looking for somewhere for my parents. And there's some beautiful places out there. I mean, really, people are well looked after. There's also places that are very often attached to care homes where you need sort of 24/7 cover, where you have wee flats in the grounds. So, you know, you've got help if you need it. And that to me is a more sensible way to go, where you move into the wee flat where you've got a buzzer that gets you help if you need it, or you maybe get a wee bit help in the kitchen and so on. And then you move into the main big house, you know, where you have a room rather than a sitting room, a room and a kitchen and a bathroom of your own. A lot of Scandinavian countries kind of work that's a system similar to that. But it just interests me that these guys who didn't prepare for a pandemic in private homes are getting let off the hook because of the emotional involvement of it being our old folk that they're looking after. You know?
Well, like you say, mate, they've not prepared and they are getting bailed out to an extent. But I think it will bite them on the butt further down the road. They will see far more stringent regulation.
But your point, Stewart, about should it be taken over at whatever level, I'm not sure I'm with that, because you do want choice. You know,
we sound like a Tory. I want choice.
I mean, if there's a system whereby local government can give you different options, different types of care homes, you know, rather than what I saw, which looked like one step away from a hospital.
Well, I mean, the only reason I brought it up is it's become topical this week because care homes has become the big issue of the week. I don't know about you. When I take notes about what's going on at the moment, I have to invent my own shorthand. So obviously care homes become CH because I'm writing it down so often. And it has been the hot topic.
And it's a kind of unfair topic in a lot of ways to blame the Scottish government for this.
Well, that's not what I mean. It's become the topic is, should there be more regulation or should it be, well, on the one extreme, nationalised? And I've suggested perhaps local authorities, but you brought out a lot of issues to do with it. I mean, it's very interesting.
It's a really complicated, when you have to make these decisions, there are so many strands to it that you don't think about till it lands in your lap. Do you know what I mean? But that, I mean, we were going to talk about private businesses complaining about lack of support.
Yeah. The SLTA, the Scottish Licensed Trade Association, have been having another moan about it, and it's understandable. But to be honest, I wonder if the SLTA are actually not realising the bigger picture here. I'm looking at, well, we're looking at this afternoon and our 3 weeks. Do you all, can you agree on that?
I can't, especially in Scotland, I can't see our. I mean, there might be another 3 weeks. We'll look at it each week situation, but I don't expect it to be less than 3 weeks.
I'm wondering if the reason why government have no real, they've no interest in publishing their exit strategy is because they've not really got one yet. I don't understand. I can't see pubs opening for a long time, Norrie. You can't socially distance in pubs and restaurants. It's just impossible.
Oh, you're right there, Jimmy. It was noticeable at First Minister's Questions. That was the one question she was asked about by Alison Johnson, the Green leader. And she did come out with some new stuff, didn't she? She talked about this possibility of an app. If you want to, they're looking at an app that will be, you can get it on Android or iPhone, and they're expecting 80% of the population be able to use it. And I suppose the idea was if you're prepared to sign up for this app, you'll be allowed to go out and do what you want. Maybe even open a pub full of people who've just got the app.
Yeah, well, for stuff like that, mate, they can away and juggle a jobby as far as I'm concerned. The government have way more information about people than they need. And if they're launching an app, given the UK government's track record on cybersecurity, any information that you put into that app is going to be freely available to any company in India or China about 2 minutes after you've signed up for the app.
If you publish your location on any phone, that's exactly what you're doing. You're giving that information to the company.
Well, exactly.
I didn't publish my location, mate. Location services are always switched off on my phone.
Well, if you want to,
I would imagine 80% of people already are being followed in some way or another.
If you're using Google Maps to see if there's a road, a traffic jam ahead of you before you, like, so if I head from Leith down to Musselburgh and I want to see if there's a traffic jam in between, if you're running that, you're providing your data. That's how they get that information. That's how they know there's a traffic jam.
Hence the reason you didn't use Google Maps. You use other applications. But I didn't think the government has any right to instruct people that they're going to come out of lockdown if they sign up for any service whatsoever.
You won't be obviously, Jimmy. You won't have to use it.
Of course you will.
If you don't want to use it, you don't want to use it. But the chances are you could be. It could be if you want to get out and about.
What are they going to do, Jimmy? If you don't download the app, they're going to identify where you are and come and get you.
No, what I'm saying is,
to do that.
Are you going to get a police coming up to you and saying, "Can I check your phone to see you're out here legitimately?"
There was one point talking about a lockdown, and obviously the question of the exit strategy. I think that was Alison Johnson's question at First Minister's Question, and she challenged the First Minister on that. And it turned out the First Minister has actually admitted that they are looking into the exit strategy now. And what it's called, you have to test, trace, isolate. In other words, this is what they've been doing in Germany right from the start.
It's the same strategy as the contain strategy.
Yeah.
That it all started with.
Yeah, but this country wasn't able to continue that because they couldn't test people. They didn't have the capacity.
Yeah.
So that will be the way out of the lockdown, the exit strategy. So it'd be interesting, just for a change, at 5 o'clock tonight, the number 10 briefing on the coronavirus might actually be interesting.
Well, in a country that is looking, a country like Scotland is looking to test 3,500 people a week.
A day.
If test, trace, identify is their strategy in a country of 5.5 million, we're not getting out of lockdown for about 3 years.
But Jimmy, if they use the app to identify, it'll be a lot easier.
They can take their app and shove it where the sun doesn't shine, mate.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, if I catch it and you and I go for a pint, they'll be able to identify the fact you might.
If you catch it, I'm not going for a pint with you.
I'm not going to tell you till afterwards.
You'll not catch it. The amount of red wine and Guinness in your system, not a chance, sir.
Do you know, I haven't had a pint of Guinness since the week before we locked down. I have to tell you
No?
that. No.
So you'd have a couple of wee bottles of
No.
stout or something in the fridge for any
Oh,
emergencies,
I've
mate.
got a couple of tins in the fridge, but they are for emergencies.
Oh well, I'm sorry. There's a bottle bank outside my door. It was busy before the lockdown. Now it's non-stop. I mean, it's incredibly noisy. If you live beside a bottle bank, you'll know what I'm saying. It sounds like somebody's shooting people.
Well,
First
Stewart,
bottle
the council aren't lifting bottles, eh? People's
Oh,
blue
no,
bins and red bins and that aren't getting lifted anymore.
they're getting lifted down here. Everything's getting lifted twice as often. The bins down my bit.
No, but that's
the
what I'm
end of the
saying. That's
street.
why people are using the bottle bank, because the collection at your door is no longer happening.
Well, I don't know. Well, I've got big bins, so haven't got them.
Our bins are getting emptied as regularly.
Aye,
As
they'll
far as
take
I know,
mate,
they've taken
that's
drivers
Norrie.
off of other
They'll
council
take your bin.
jobs.
They'll take your food bin, but then they put your glass out.
Ah, well,
They'll
I
just no
think
lift
they've
it.
cancelled the food bins and they've
Haven't you
cancelled
thought about it?
the garden.
Right, guys.
Oh, here, one question.
Okay.
Do you want a badge from Matt Hancock?
No, stick that up with the sun didn't shine and all. Along with your app. Can I put the badge on my app and throw them into New Haven Harbour?
Can if you want. Right. So my question is this. Would you rather have seen helicopter money, universal basic income introduced against pulling businesses out of trouble?
Well, it's not a question of would I rather see that. I think the practicalities are that it would have been simpler. You simply give every taxpayer some money. Apparently, they slightly changed the helicopter money in America that Donald Trump promised to give to everybody. It was going to be $1,000. Now it's supposed to be $1,200, but now he's insisting that his picture's on the check.
Oh, he's wanting his picture on the check.
Or maybe it's
No,
his
no,
name. What's the difference?
Well, his picture would be a much more effective way to buy votes.
Be a much more effective way to keep people indoors.
Because
Well,
quite a
name
large proportion of the American population can't read English.
They're the people that vote for him.
Well, they might be suckered into voting.
Oh, no, sorry. They are the people who might be voting for him, allegedly.
No, well, you've got to remember a lot of the southern states, the main language, Spanish.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't think that it would have. I didn't think it's an either or, Norrie. I think helicopter money might have been a good idea. We'll actually see that maybe in the next couple of weeks. Helicopter money might have just been a better idea than letting people starve, because pay week is coming up next week, and some companies aren't going to meet their payrolls because they've not got government money through yet. So maybe a few £100 into everybody's bank might have been a good idea so that nobody starved.
Well, I think by the time we come to scrutinising what was done, that's going to be one of the major problems, is the fact that not ensuring that your money wasn't stolen has been more important than ensuring money got into people's pockets, which is ideological.
Yeah, that's Tory. That's a Tory way of thinking.
And I think what we might find is that a few people have blitzed the system from the top end down, not the sort of middle businesses, the bottom businesses. It'll be the big boys.
Well, let's have a look at Tim, what's his face? Tim Nice Bit Dim that runs Weatherspoons. I wonder how much government money he's hoovering up whilst binning all his staff. That'll be an interesting look.
Did he not roll back on that? Did he not?
I don't think so. I don't think
no, mate. He didn't furlough his staff. He let them go.
See, that's what I don't get. I don't get why the money wasn't actually dependent on you keeping your staff.
Because it's a Tory government.
Well, that's the one rule that should have applied.
Yeah, but that bailout, the Tories didn't care about normal people. They
why are you?
They're quite happy to bail out the big business like Tim.
But why are you bailing out businesses that fired all the staff? They're not going to be open up immediately. They're going to have to recruit staff before they can open their doors.
Aye, but he'll rehire half the staff that he binned, and people will take it because they need the jobs.
And apparently they need 90,000 people to go and pick vegetables in the fields.
It's all right. We've got Romania.
Well, then they've got to fly in.
I'll tell you what. The other reason that we should actually have to vote electronically by phone, so we can identify Brexiteers and send them out to pick the fruit.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
See, Jimmy, being spied on by the state isn't all bad.
Aye, it is. They wouldn't be interested in sending Brexiteers out. They'd be wanting people like me to go out and pick fruit, so I'd die. I'd have to sit on my arse and shuffle along arse with you. I can't pick fruit, mate. I'd never get back on my feet again.
Can we just say one other thing about Donald Trump? Because we kind of sailed right past him. He's caused a scandal this week, of course, by pulling nearly $500 million contribution to the World Health Organization. Now, I'm not going to comment very much on whether they're good or bad, or the Chinese are good or bad. But what has been noticeable is that since Donald Trump said that about 3 days ago, there's not been a cheep from the British government. Not a whisper of they haven't agreed or they haven't disagreed. They're so desperate to hang on to an American trade deal because it's the only life belt they've got left
We're not
for
getting
their Brexit.
We're not going to trade deal with America. They'll build a wall this time. If Donald gets elected again, they'll build a wall, and we'll pay for it because we want them all to stay in there, and they can go nuts. Stay away from the rest of the planet as much as possible.
You mean
I think I'll get
we'll
myself
build a
cabin.
wall?
I need a hut in the woods and a bit of land, and I'll just grow my own tatties and live that way.
I could quite
Are
handle
you
a bit
going to
of
have
that as well,
internet?
as long as somebody has to come and pick the tatties
I'll
for
have
me.
a wee wind turbine. You know, you can turn an old generator from a car through the diff,
Okay.
the back axle. And
Are you
stick
going to
it on a
get?
pole.
Are you going to get a swastika tattooed on your forehead and join one of these American isolationist groups then?
No, that's the American style, not the Scottish style. Very, very different.
So you're talking about a croft as opposed to...
I'm a bit old for a croft.
I kind of like the idea. I'd grow my own tatties as long as I could distill them.
Nobody's
Become a
stopping you.
vodka drinker.
What do you mean become?
That's shocking. How would you feed yourself, Jimmy, if you used all the tatties for drink?
Deep fried tatty skins, mate.
Deep fried tatty? No.
Oh, very nice too. I like a tatty skin.
You could charge guests a premium because I believe they're quite sexy now in restaurants.
I don't know what's sexy in a restaurant, mate. The bar usually.
Well, anything else you guys picked up on the last 24 hours?
Well, apparently the Faroe Islands are doing very well.
I can't understand how, because I mean they're independent. I do not understand how they're managing.
No idea.
You think their economy would have collapsed. Everything would have collapsed because small independent countries, they've not got broad shoulders to help them out, have they?
They're even producing their own testing kits already because they've got a big fisheries business. It's not just fishing boats, but that's like fish farms. They've got a very sophisticated testing lab for testing for disease in fish, and they've converted that lab into testing for coronavirus.
The way I read the thing I saw about that was one of their scientists noticed that one of the fish diseases was similar to coronavirus.
There you go.
And he managed to come up with a test.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like it might be a test for antibodies.
Well, there you go.
Which will be interesting because that'll make...
let Donald find out about it. He'll start warbling on about the fish flu. It'll be Aquaman's fault by the middle of next week.
Well, think about it. If the Faroes have got a test that shows antibodies, they could become the richest place in the whole world.
Very true.
Because everybody's going to want the test.
Everybody wants an antibody test. At the moment, the only thing that an antibody test means is that a politician's wobbling and needs time to actually come up with an answer.
Look, don't mention that. It takes me back to the Falklands War. At the time of the Falklands War, there were only 1,200 people lived in the whole of the Falklands. And at the time, the British government could have given them all £1 million each and a bit of land in Britain to clear out, and sold it to the Argentinians, and nobody needed to die.
But Stewart, would it have won Thatcher another election?
Well, there's another
Probably
story.
not.
That's the big question. I notice that people are beginning to pick up on how stupid this idea, these war references are. Blitz spirit and all the rest of it. Because you can't shoot a coronavirus.
No, you can't shoot it, you can't bomb it, you can't burn it with a flamethrower.
Oh, I would imagine you could probably burn it with a flamethrower, Jimmy. You might have to burn the person that it was in as well, but...
Well, exactly. You're setting yourself up as an undertaker at that point, and I'm pretty sure you need a license for that.
Okay.
I think we'll call it a day at that, guys. Thanks, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Norrie Stewart. Thank you, Stuart Lockhead. And thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you tomorrow, no doubt.
Aye, right.